Dapchi school girls return home, reunite with their families.
I'm very, very happy to see my daughters, two of them, in my occupied with me. I'm very, very happy.
The federal government debunks claims on Dapchi schoolgirls' abduction.
The Nigerian police force goes tough on possession of illegal arms, commences raid of identified criminal sports.
And today on Good Morning Nigeria, we focus on state legislatures and the amendment of the Constitution.
The fourth alteration of the 1999 Constitution has continued with the submission of the report by Conference of Speakers of State Houses of Assembly to the National Assembly leadership.
Now, 34 of the 36 state houses of assembly in the country went through the 29 amendments that were transmitted to them by the National Assembly and then ratified 15 of those amendments.
Yes, chairman of the conference, while presenting the report to the leadership of the legislative arm of government, lauded the efforts of the National Assembly towards ensuring good governance and entrenching sustainable democracy in the country.
Now, the Conference of Speakers, however, isn't happy that the National Assembly rejected the devolution of powers, which, according to them, has overwhelming support at the grassroots level. And the speakers therefore called for a need to revisit the issue in subsequent amendments. Now, it is also the case that the State House of Assembly, which ratified 15 of the 29 amendments, however, refused or declined to grant autonomy to local government councils, even though the National Assembly had endorsed it.
And that brings us to the real question now. Why the refusal to grant autonomy to the third tier of government? What exactly is responsible for this decision? Some school of thoughts may argue that is the action of the Houses of Assembly not amounting to contravention of the goodwill that led to the independence they enjoy today, Kingsley?
Well, some measure of independence. What happened was that in the previous attempts at amending the Constitution, the State House of Assembly themselves voted against financial autonomy, as it were, for the state legislatures. But in this particular exercise, they have voted for financial autonomy for the State House of Assembly, but then struck down autonomy for the third tier of government. All right, so these are issues, of course, that we shall be taking a look at, including, of course, the raft of amendments that we now know how substantial are these amendments and what else is required to be done. We're having guests who will be joining us in the studios and hopefully also from one or two remote locations. It's on that note, we'd like to welcome you to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and as always, we're reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're right here at the Abuja headquarters studios. And it's my pleasure to welcome our colleague you always see here on the morning news. That's Joy Osiago. Hi, Joy. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Kingsley. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to thank you for joining us on the program, reaching you live from the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA. And as usual, we have our companion segments, which include newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and entertainment news. But before then, Anne Jibuno is set to give the morning news. Good morning, Anne.
Hello, Joy and Kingsley. Good morning. Here is the news. The federal government has reunited the released Dapchi schoolgirls with their parents amid tears and jubilation by the families and other members of Dapchi community. The girls were conveyed to Government Girls Science and Technical College, Dapchi, where they were accredited and handed over to their parents. The girls were full of gratitude to God for rejoining them with their families.
We thank God for that. And we thank every Nigerian for their prayers and for their commitment to see our children back. I'm very, very happy to see my daughters, two of them, in my occupied with me. I'm very, very happy.
Well, the federal government has reacted to the alleged revelation by a certain Sergeant David Bako in the social media, claiming there was a top-level conspiracy that stage-managed the abduction of Dapchi schoolgirls on 19 February. The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, while reacting to the report in Lagos, made more clarifications on the release of the Dapchi schoolgirls.
David Bako is fake. There is no such soldier in the Nigerian army. There was no conspiracy anywhere. The intention of those behind the disinformation and fake news is to cause disaffection between Christians and Muslims, and between Southerners and Northerners.
In the meantime, the Ministry of Defense has described as unfortunate a recent comment by one of the elder statesmen alleging that the military collude with bandits to kill people and therefore call on them to rise and defend themselves outside constitutional provisions. A statement by Public Relations Officer to the Minister of Defense, Colonel Tukur Gusau, says this is highly uncalled for and is an invitation to anarchy and should be disregarded by well-meaning Nigerians. It states that the effort of the Nigerian Armed Forces towards restoration of peace, security and order in Nigeria is evidently clear, and Nigerians should continue to show appreciation for changing the security environment from what it was before. The statement says the Nigerian Armed Forces are well organized and highly professional in discharging their constitutional mandate. It therefore asks anyone who has evidence of wrongdoings or dereliction of duty against the troops to bring forward such evidence through the appropriate channels for necessary action. The statement says the military will not be distracted from performing its statutory duties in accordance with the rules of engagement. And the Nigeria Police Force says it will continue to sustain the tempo of its strategies adopted in fighting crimes in the country to guarantee adequate protection of lives and property. Olajide Bello reports that the Force Public Relations Officer, ACP Jimo Moshood, re-echoed this while parading 22 suspected kidnap and armed robbery gang at Sabon Wuse Division of Niger State.
Throughout the North Central, Niger, Kaduna, Nasarawa, to Benue, Plateau, and the region. And these are the arms of the operation, Absolute Sanity, having the Special Tactical Squad as a wing that are carrying out this operation. The
police force says it has commenced immediate raids of identified criminal spots, crime flashpoints, and other crime-prone locations nationwide. While appreciating the support from members of the public, the police says it will continue to rely on credible information in combating crime. Late Senator Ali Wakili has been described as a patriotic Nigerian whose contributions to uplift the downtrodden would be remembered and celebrated for a long time. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo said this when he paid a condolence visit to the Bauchi state government and families of the late senator.
Senator Ali Wakil was a personal friend, a good friend, and also a very loyal party member, and a man who you could rely upon, a trustworthy, very, very trustworthy person. He was very concerned about the man on the street, about the common man, very concerned about issues of poverty, and we did a lot of work together to try and ensure that we're able to bring relief and to bring succor to so many.
Well, that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Joy and Kingsley.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
Is going a long way.
Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime, we bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
Your perfect family is under threat by germs. Infectious diseases are now the world's biggest killer of adults and children. Every day, 16,000 children under the ages of 5 and thousands of adults die from infectious diseases. These infectious diseases are caused by germs. They are everywhere. An average human being comes in contact with over 1 million germs daily. In unclean water, dirty surfaces, in the toilet, on cuts and wounds, on your clothes. Germs can cause deadly diseases like typhoid, diarrhea, flu, and cough. To protect your family from germs, use the power of Dettol's 1 Cap Full for surface cleaning in your bathing water, in your laundry water, for first aid, to protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol sure. Endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association.
Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin Tayi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
Helen! Your kitchen gets 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
This also gets a 10. Should we see the toilet now?
Sure.
This gets just 1.
It is clean.
But not perfect 10.
Better than my detergent and bleach? Impossible.
Challenge? Try the new Apic 10X. Compared to bleach and detergent, Apic sticker formulation removes yellow stains times better, giving you a sparkling clean toilet.
Wow.
Now you also take that
Apic 10X challenge.
Also available in 200 ml pack.
Let's now join Joy Uzo to give us what is trending in the business world. Joy?
Welcome to Business News. We'll start with a report on the Avina project targeted at boosting agriculture in Nigeria. In recognition of the country's leadership in agriculture in Africa, organizers of Avina Africa has shifted focus to Nigeria, where it hopes to convene a large agriculture forum that will feature latest innovations in the industry and encourage economic cooperation among nations. Organizers say they decided to come to Nigeria to network with stakeholders and their products in agriculture and agribusiness, and to ensure exportation of these products to different parts of the world. The expo, which is slated to hold in April, will offer a unique productive opportunity between the world's leading agricultural and agribusiness stakeholders to formulate policies and business opportunities that will enhance the development of agriculture, encourage investment, international trade, market networking, skill acquisition, and technical know-how. Moving on now, power generating companies in the country were paid only 6.1 billion naira for over 2 billion megawatts of electricity, worth 48.23 billion naira, distributed in January 2018. This is contained in the latest report released by the Gencos over the weekend, which revealed that the money was paid to over 23 of them. According to the report, the Gencos received only 12.62% in the January 2018 payment cycle. Now a quick look at the activities of the Nigerian Stock Exchange from last week, which shows that a total turnover of 2.328 billion shares worth 28.927 billion naira in 25,530 deals were traded by investors on the floor of the exchange. The NSE All-Share Index and market capitalization depreciated by 1.11% and 0.14% to close the week at 41,472.10 and 14.982 trillion naira. Similarly, all other indices finished lower during the week, with the exception of the NSE CG, NSE Banking and NSE Pension indices that appreciated by 1.07%, 3.31% and 1.67% respectively. Now the stock market resumes trading this Monday. We'll keep you abreast with trading figures at the close of transactions later today in our news bulletins. And on that note, we'll wrap up business news. Many thanks for watching. My name is Joy Uzo.
Thank you very much, Joy Uzo, for the business package. Next for us, we take a look at the headlines on the front pages of some of today's newspapers.
Newspaper reviewer Bayo Atoebi is in the studio. Bayo, we welcome you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Joy. Welcome on to set. Good morning, Kingsley, and good morning, Nigeria.
All right, let's begin. There are stories that are common to the front pages of the few newspapers that we have this morning. Stories on Boko Haram, Dapchi schoolgirls, and as well as other security matters. Now, for the Daily Independent newspaper, the headline, that's for the list story, says, "We are engaging Boko Haram on possible ceasefire." And that's attributed to the federal government, with a rider revises number of Dapchi schoolgirls kidnapped and released. Now, that's list story. It's also the same for this day newspaper. And it comes also with a double-decker headline. Federal government confirms ceasefire talks with Boko Haram. And two riders there. Calls for PDP's deregistration and revises figure on Dapchi abductees. And the last rider there says girls reunite with their families. Wait for Leah Sharibu continues. Now, above the nameplate of this day newspaper, there's a headline there that says Danjuma's comments on killings, an invitation to anarchy, says the Defense Minister. That story is in greater detail on page 59. Another one there very quickly, that's below the nameplate. Why Court quashed EFCC's wanted declaration on Benedict Peters. Now, just before Joy comes in, let's go back to the Daily Independent above the nameplate. Our Daily Independent newspaper. It says Danjuma's comment, threat to military operations in North Central, and that's according to the army. And with the rider says Sergeant David Bako does not exist.
All right, let's go to the New Telegraph. It has something different from the stories you have over there, Kingsley. It has a major story here which says Electoral Act, 67 senators signed to override Buhari. And it has a couple of riders, lawmakers, legal expert parley. The second one says pro-president senators number reduces. And the last one there says APC leaders intervention not bearing fruits. The stories can be found on page 4. And above the name plate there, we have Governor Ikpeazu's low performance and quest for re-election. You can get full details of that story on page 15. And then a couple of stories to look out for. How Jonathan withdrew shared 100 billion naira for elections, and it is attributed to the presidency. Details on page 4. And beside it, we have Dapchi Uba calls for more efforts on Leah Chibok girls. Get details of that also on page 10. And we still have another one on the Chibok girls, which is attributed to the minister. The comment says, Dapchi girls, why military didn't attack Boko Haram. And beside it is UBA sustains growth, declares 105.3 billion naira profit. That story can be found on page 27. Let's go down now for another story which says, Army to Nigerians, carry arms, face the wrath. And the writers there says, APC chides Danjuma. PDP call for self-defense, evidence of a failed nation. Find that story on page 5. Bayo.
Thank you. Let's start with the good news that came from Dapchi. The students, released students returned to Dapchi. The parents waited all day to receive them when they came in the evening, and they were jubilating all over Dapchi. However, the leader of the federal government delegation, one of them, Senator Bukaraba Ibrahim, appealed to parents, congratulated them, and said they should take what had happened as an act that was preordained by God, and they should not deter the parents from sending their children back to school. A parent, May Saleh Gadina, said, "We want government to know that adequate security measure must be taken before we return our children to school." Our hearts go out to Leah Shorebu, who is still being held, and in fact over the weekend expectations were very high that she was about to be released, but we hope that is a premonition to the fact that she will soon be released. The other statement that has attracted a lot of criticism is the reaction that have trailed the pronouncement by General Theophilus Danjuma that Nigerians should defend themselves when attacked. The former Minister of Defense was speaking at the maiden convocation ceremony of Taraba State University, and he has said the armed forces are not neutral. They are colluding with the armed bandits. Therefore, they facilitate their movement, and therefore people should defend themselves. The Minister of Defense has advised that Nigerians should disregard the advice because it is an invitation to anarchy. The Army High Command also has made a pronouncement while the Nigeria Army spokesman, Brigadier General Texas Chukwu, that he is not, we will not want to join issues with an elder statesman. He, however, chose to set the record. Says he said the Nigeria Army is neutral, and the facts speak for themselves because Nigerians have accepted Apatuma, the operation that was inside. He said Nigeria Army personnel have paid the higher and the supreme sacrifice in the course of this duty. He cited an instance whereby a non-commissioned officer was beheaded in Takum on 16th of March. He said at the outset of the problem, Taraba State did not cooperate with them, but however, they are determined and they have warned anybody who is found with arms will be dealt with according to the law. So those are the forests. The other one is again part of what is going on in social media. A self-acclaimed defector, he calls himself David Bako. He says the army was the ones that planned the abduction in Dapchi, and he claimed that they were an 80-man team of soldiers that went to Dapchi and abducted the girls and also returned them for a fee of 80 million naira, and his share was 3 million. However, he has kept his own share with his commander and has decided left Nigeria. The army says they don't have anybody as David Bako on their list. However, his account of the abduction is at variance with what was reported. We recall that our correspondent, the correspondent of the NTA in Dapchi, reported specifically that when the abductors came, they didn't even know where the school was. They had to go and adopt some schoolboys who took them first to a primary school before later on they went to the secondary school. Secondly, his account was that they returned the girls, but the account of the returning of the girls showed that first there was 77, 91, 111, and 105, which meant that they were returned at different locations. So some of these claims do not add, and that is why it emphasized that in instances of national challenge, particularly with security and threat, as a nation, we all should be single and united in fighting that kind of thing, rather than this kind of subterfuge. Particularly, the danger there in that social media trip was imputation of Islamization of Nigeria and ethnic cleansing, which is not good for our nation.
Yeah, Bayo, thank you very much. The revised figures beginning, that's to say, the Dapchi schoolgirls who were abducted, if you recall, at some point we were all stuck on 110.
Yes.
It turns out that the figures of the girls who were actually abducted, that's who were students of the school, 111. That's what the government is saying now.
Yes, yes.
But there were two other persons who are not excuse me, who are not students of the school. One of them is a primary school pupil who came there to hawk water, and another, of course, attended two of them who happened to have been, shall we say, collateral abductees.
Yes.
But they have also been released. Now, excuse me. The other point about the Sergeant David Bako, I mean, if you read the post at the weekend on the social media, there were obvious gaps. And then you then started to ask yourself, well, this sergeant must be so highly educated, you know, as to have been able to script all of this that they were put together. But there were a number of questions. But it also shows the hazards that, you know, the public is faced with regard to messages that fly around in the social media. It was useful that the authorities, you know, responded very quickly in seeking to debunk it. And if you were to ask people, they will tell you that perhaps, you know, the key ingredient, you know, in the reaction had to do with the fact that, look, throughout the records of the military, particularly of the army, there is no individual known as Sergeant David Bako. So when there is no identity, when there is no such human being, it just tells you straight away that it's contrived.
And he was faceless, and that should also push the public to be cautious about what they take from the social media. Social media is good, but we must watch what we take in.
I agree with you. Now let's take other headlines.
Yes.
This is below the Daily Independent, below the name flag of Daily Independent. Dino Melaye denies fleeing Nigeria, blames Bello for travails. That story is on page 7. And then just beside the photograph on the front page of the Daily Independent, there it says recovered funds. That's the kicker. Why I wrote Mago. And that's according to Adeoshun. That's also on page 7. And lastly, that second lead story on the front page of Daily Independent. Oyegun-led National Working Committee tenure extension on the cards as APC meets today. That story is in greater detail. Of course, it jumps from the front page to page 6.
And then let's just take a look at a very interesting picture below the nameplate of New Telegraph. It says, free school girls reunite with families. That must be an interesting episode and time for the families.
Absolutely, absolutely. But the wait for Leah continues. Now, there are other stories. We can't upload them on the screen for you to see, but very quickly from page 57 bio of This Day newspaper. This Day newspaper, page 57, you have 3 headlines there. One is, federal government completes investigations into 553 whistleblower cases and recovers 145 billion naira. With a rider, TSA grosses 8.9 trillion naira in 3 years. And then also there on the front, on page 57, northern governors meet with Mieti Allah over herdsmen and farmers clashes. And Saraki queries Chief of Staff over role in Northern Leaders Summit. That's his Chief of Staff, by the way. All right, Joy, just before we'll let him go, let's take a look at the editorial.
Okay, for the editorial, we have, and this is taken from the Authority Daily, idle insurance funds can be recycled into infrastructure development. And then for the Signs of the Time, let's just take a little quote there which says, what this means is that due to such leakages, many local insurers are left to pick the crumbs, resulting in poor earnings and negligible profits and even outright losses in most cases.
Well, let's start with the issue of finance. You recall the whistleblower policy came in December 2016. So far, there were, among the case listed, 1,231 whistleblower cases. 791 of them have been completed, and 534 of them are said cases that has completely been dispensed with. There's still 440 of them to be looked at. Meanwhile, a total sum of 145 billion in several currencies have been recovered. So, whistleblower policy is actually turning a lot of resources back into the country. Also in Sokoto, northern governors, some northern governors, including the governors of Sokoto, the Kaduna, Kano, and Borno, met with Miyetti Allah. Again, it is initiative they are adopting to find lasting solution to the ongoing herders-farmers clashes. No resolution no communique was issued, but it is expected that more conferences will be held in the Kano, Kaduna, Makurdi, and other places so that they find a solution. Now to the editorial. Well, these are hard times with very prominent budget that are targeted towards infrastructure, not forgetting the human capital aspect of it. And what you require is resources. You recall that a substantial part of what was postponed for 2018 budget is supposed to be borrowed. So what the editorial is saying that there are some funds in the insurance area that can be used for infrastructure. And they point out, NNPC, for instance, they say pays a premium about $71 million and 11.4 billion naira as premium. So they said a lot of resources
to
there.
Whom do you pay the premium?
Well, we pay the premium to the insurance, but the premium is not an idle fund. It is a part of the contingency that if an emergency arises for which the premium was paid, the insurance has to respond.
That's
so
right.
It has to be a balancing act.
Yeah, the insurance market isn't deep enough just yet in Nigeria to ensure that you have a much wider pool of funds. Baya Toby,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, it's still Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we shall be dealing with state houses of assembly and the process of amending the constitution.
3 Crowns Milk is low in cholesterol and endorsed by the Nigerian Heart Foundation.
3 Crowns Milk. Healthy moms, happy families.
A Niger Mom Powerful.
I encourage my kids to learn new things, and if they get hurt, I rely on the power of my Dettol's 1 capful to fight germs.
My family needs protection from germs. I use the power of Dettol's 1 capful to disinfect surfaces and clothes.
I trust the power of Dettol's 1 capful for bathing. The power of Dettol's 1 capful protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Be a powerful Niger Mom with Dettol.
Sore throats, it's often caused by bacteria and viruses. Feels like they're having a party. You need Strepsils. It soothes the pain, plus it fights the germs with 2 germ-killing actives. Double power in 1 lozenge. Bye-bye sore throat. Take Strepsils.
3,346 medals are up for grabs at the first National Grassroots Sports Festival, Sports for All, to discover sports talent, develop future world champions, and rejuvenate sports in Nigeria. Date 19th to 29th of April 2018. Venue, National Stadium Abuja, packages A and B. This is an opportunity for state governors to promote their achievements and for companies to promote their brand with 24 individual and team sports. For broadcast sponsorship, contact Angelo Peter I. Elosia, Chairman and Chief Coordinator, or Nick Onyisi. Organizers, Grassroots International Sports Academy and LOP Worldwide Television. Endorsed by the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development. Broadcast partner, NTA, the largest television network in Africa.
Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. Nurofen Express works at the source of pain. Fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust.
When I was a little girl, I loved spending time with Mum and Grandma cleaning the house. I knew what Grandma's secret was. I was so excited to sing in the choir. And your shirts are always so white. I knew what Mum's secret was. Today, I'm a modern woman that still trusts the secrets passed down to me.
It's Jik, of course, the trusted bleach which can be used all around your house for amazing results.
Shh, it's our little secret.
It's no secret. Jik removes 101 stains. Just Jik it.
Cadbury Hot Chocolate 3-in-1. A delicious combination of rich cocoa and wholesome goodness of milk. Just add hot water to get an instant chocolatey treat that delights your senses. Cadbury Hot Chocolate 3-in-1. Just add hot water.
A few weeks ago, the Conference of Speakers of State Houses of Assembly submitted its report on the fourth alteration of the 1999 Constitution to the leadership of the National Assembly for further legislative action. Let's join Timothy Yusuf with this background report to kickstart our discussion.
With the failure of the third alteration to the 1999 Constitution in the 7th National Assembly, the 8th Legislature decided to make the issue a priority by putting it in its legislative agenda. To this end, the federal legislators kick-started the process by putting a committee in place to carry out the amendment. At the end of the exercise, both chambers of the National Assembly voted on the 33 items proposed to be amended. Thereafter, copies of the draft amendment were transmitted to the 36 Houses of Assembly for concurrence. However, 34 out of the 36 assemblies participated in the process, while 2 states, namely Rivers and Lagos, declined. Out of the items sent to the state legislatures, the members only ratified 15. Although the state legislatures okayed their independence, they however refused to grant autonomy of the local government councils, among others. While presenting their report to the National Assembly leadership, Chairman of Speakers' Conference of the State Houses of Assembly commended the National Assembly for acting promptly on the proposed amendment and urged the federal legislators to reconsider the issue of devolution of power, as voting out the matter at the center came under serious criticisms at the grassroots. So, what are the reasons behind their resolutions? Did the Houses of Assembly really take these decisions in the best interest of the people? Considering the fact that Nigerians have been yearning for autonomy of local councils, guests on the program will provide answers shortly.
All right, thank you very much, Timothy Yusuf, for that background report. We have 3 guests with us here in the Abuja studios, and then another guest joining us from one of our network centers. First, at this time, I would like to welcome Right Honorable Abdul Mumin Ismaila Gamba. Gamba is chairman of the Conference of Speakers of State Houses of Assembly, and of course is Speaker of the Kebbi State House of Assembly. Honorable Gamba, pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right, and then we also have with us here in the studios Right Honorable Kawa Shehu Damina, is Speaker, Bauchi House of Assembly. Good to have you with us on the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and good morning, Nigerians.
Also joining us here in Abuja studio is Right Honorable John Ugol, Speaker, Cross River State House of Assembly. We're glad to have you join us today.
Thank you very much.
And from Ibadan studio, we're being joined by Dr. Stephen Lafenwa, Senior Lecturer, Department of Political Science, University of Ibadan, and Public Affairs Analyst. We want to thank you for joining us this morning, Dr. Lafenwa.
Good morning, listeners, and good morning, Nigeria.
All right, gentlemen, welcome to the program. Maybe we'll begin on a very light note. What is the difference between the Honorable Kamba, for instance, and Right Honorable Kamba? What does the right add to the Honorable?
Whatever you consider that name Honorable, it's not necessary you say Right Honorable. So whether you say Right Honorable or you said Honorable Kamba, it's accepted and the same.
So let's go to the Bauchi speaker for his own perspective. What is the difference between Right Honorable and Honorable?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I may say it's a Nigerian mentality, because every member was just elected to represent a constituency, and by the grace of God and through the cooperation of his colleagues, elected to lead, because the leadership of any assembly is a leadership amongst equal. So honorable is just the designation. So by extension, probably they have just added the right to distinguish maybe the leadership from the ordinary members.
I see. The crossover. The crossover. That's right. Yes.
Okay, I think it's more like a legislative convention that has been used. It's like a historical accolade, what we've inherited from the British. So, a returning in most legislative House of Assembly, the House rules provides that any member of the House of Assembly who has served more than 1 term becomes a right honorable, like the crossover state rules. That's very clear. In the other convention, anybody who is elected speaker is elected first among the poll is differentiated from his colleagues with the use of the word right honorable. That's why you have Right Honorable Chibuka Amechi today was Speaker of the House of Assembly.
Yeah, because I popped the question because I recall in 1999 when the First Republic was taken off, there were issues. There were persons who were concerned as to the use of right honorable. Say, look, how would you have this oxymoron, as it were? You're going back to the British parliamentary system for your titles, and in the meantime, you're running a presidential system of government. But I hope the explanation is clear, but it's still a bit fuzzy. All right, so that's started off on that. Still on a lighter note, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the constitutional amendment process, 36 states of the Federation, 2 state legislatures, namely Lagos and Rivers, declined to, as it were, consider the set of amendments that were passed by the National Assembly. What is the explanation? Let's begin with Right Honorable Kamba.
At the time of our return of the alteration to the National Assembly, the 2 states could not act on them. But all we know is a gradual process. But at a later date, Rivers has also transmitted. So now it remains only Lagos to act on the transmission.
Okay, only Lagos is outstanding now. All right. Also, Joy, it's something that, again, our viewers are also interested in. Tell us something about the process of ratification by the state houses of assembly. Is it a yes or no vote, for instance, on the proposed amendment, or do your votes on a particular proposed amendment also get to be accompanied by, for instance, a notation saying, look, we wish this clause were rephrased this way? Is it a yes or no vote? That's one. And secondly, if the state houses of assembly are independent of one another, why are you having this, as it were, omnibus transmission of your responses, of your resolutions through the Conference of Speakers? First, again, the chairman of the Conference of Speakers.
Well, the votes are not ratified at the State Houses Assembly, and there is a yes or no votes. Any item on that alteration has to have simple majority in the Houses of Assembly. But at the end of the day, it has to have 2/3 majority in the 36 states. And the pattern of voting will be accompanied by resolutions to show how many people voted yes or how many people voted yes, no for an item.
All right, let's go to Honorable Dami now. Looking at the process of the constitutional amendment so far, are you satisfied with what has gone down from the National Assembly and to the state level?
Yeah, I may say yes. And because like the chairman has just mentioned, maybe it's a legislative process. In the instance of the amendment, there were about 26 sections that were resolved to be amended. In the first tranche, 15 were communicated to the State Houses of Assembly, and just 2 days back, another 2 sections were transmitted. So I think it's a continuous process. So I think I'm satisfied with the rate at which this thing is going.
Honorable Gol, what about you concerning the issue of the process right now?
I think yes, and I think we've made progress from the 7th Assembly. Remember that the alteration failed in the 7th Assembly, and the basic reason was the drafting process that was adopted. The bills were lumped up together, some of them 6 items into one bill. And so it was difficult to separate interest and kind of sector specification. So what happened this time was that the National Assembly was able to compartmentalize all the bills into various provisions. One bill has one subject matter item. So it was easy for the legislatures to hold their public hearing, relate with people, talk to their constituents, and get specific response to specific issues. And that's why you have all of that. And we decided, like the question is, we decided, well, we have a forum and we work among ourselves. Part of the challenge we had in the 7th Assembly was that the transmission process was not coordinated, and most states transmitted, and what you hear is that we didn't find the transmission in between the National Assembly and the States House of Assembly. And so we wanted a transparent system that will have credibility, and we insisted that all our colleagues should transmit to the Secretariat, and then we'll all transmit together. And that's why you find the number of complaints is the highest ever by the States House of Assembly in all the history of the process of constitution.
So would you say you did a thorough job on this bill?
No, I won't say thorough, but I think we did a good job within the time limit we had and within the opportunities available and the issues before us. We did a very good job.
I'm wondering, Speaker of Bauchi House of Assembly, I would like you to clarify this. How many amendment bills or proposals for amendment were first sent to the State House of Assembly? Because the initial report was that it had 29 of such amendments, and the State House of Assembly could only ratify 15. But you were saying just now that only a couple of days ago, 2 other bills for amendment also came. Tell us, let's have a clear sense of how many bills you received in the first instance, how many were passed, and how many have been lately sent to the state legislatures.
The first tranche, as I earlier mentioned, 15 alterations bills were sent to the Houses of Assembly, and they were treated and returned. Just recently, about 72 hours ago, another 2 sets of such amendments were transmitted to the Houses of Assembly. I'm sure by mostly tomorrow or today, that is even officially going to be tabled before the members of the State Houses of Assembly, because they normally send through courier services. So depending on the distance and the whatever. So in all now, 15 and the 2 pending, that means 17 out of the numerous that were.
So is it necessarily the case, again, just to get it clear, that's Honorable Kamba, because the report was that you had passed 15 of 15 amendments, or 15 provisions, however you want to couch it, but that one crucial one failed, namely autonomy for local government. So how many bills, how many alteration bills were passed in the first tranche, and how many are standing now from your perspective?
Let me first correct the impression that the autonomy for local government has failed. It hasn't failed, because right now we speak, 8 states have already passed the local government autonomy. Only 4 rejected local government autonomy. Out of 36, if you minus 12, you still have 24 states to decide. So, like I said, it's a continuous process, and it's a very gradual process. So nobody should conclude that local government autonomy has failed.
But what are the reasons for the rejection?
Very well. Like he said, we are a conference, and we decided to do these alterations together. So immediately we received the alterations, we formed a technical committee to sit down to advise us on these items. And then we concluded that the less contentious items should quickly be passed because of their nature. But those with contentions should follow due process for legislation, including public hearings. That's why local government is a very difficult one, and it has to have a very wide consultations, listen to the people, and then the people will speak on it. So that's why most of the states deferred local government autonomy, not rejected local government autonomy. Right now, there are some states that are going about their public hearings about local government. You can recall before the transmission, some organizations went around to campaign that they are not comfortable for local government election. Example, the NUT and other organizations, because their fear is if local government is given autonomy, they will find their remunerations very difficult to be paid to their staff and other things. So that's why you have to be very, very careful before you pass local government elections. We did not deny local government autonomy, but we are doing diligence on local government.
Honorable Gore, let's have your take on this. Again, in terms of sequencing, how many of the bills, because the numbers are slightly confusing now. Was it 29 amendments you got? You have passed 15. The local government autonomy is still in the works or being considered. Let's have your take on this.
Okay, out of all the amendments proposed by the National Assembly decided to transmit the document in piecemeal to the state assemblies. And so the first set of bills that were transmitted were 15 bills in all, including local government autonomy, which has 2 bills, Authorization 5 and Authorization 6. And then the House of Assembly autonomy immediately of the legislature, and then presidential assent, and then power of INEC to conduct by-elections, and all of those other provisions. Now what happened is that for now, 13 of those, 12 of those items were passed in the affirmative. That's the ayes vote was in favor, and then 3, which is the issue of independent candidate, and then the Authorization 5 and 6 will deal with the financial autonomy of local government, and then strengthening of local government administration. Those 3 items. On what the chairman has said, on record, what has been rejected has been the issue of the independent candidates, because we got, I think, more than 24 states rejected it, but the local government autonomy is still work in progress, and I don't think there's any impression that it's been rejected. It's not true. The issue of the local government autonomy, there are a lot of issues involved. Remember, is a third tier of government, very important third tier of government, and nobody can deny that. What we've had a situation is that we had protests from the Nigerian Union of Teachers, Primary Healthcare Development Agency Association. I've also had issues relating to local government service commission, and then control of primary schools, the percentage of control of primary schools, and the amount of deductions to be made. Now, on the issue of the JAC account, remember that the JAC, joint account allocation of local government, is even not a constitutional provision. The JAC account is provided by the laws of the House of Assembly. So we actually don't need a constitutional provision to amend the JAC account. If the House of Assembly of Cross River wants to amend the JAC account, it's a law of the House of Assembly, we can amend the JAC account. And so if the intention of the amendment is to abrogate JAC account, it's good, but we need to have time to look at the operations of the joint account. Why do you need to repeal the JAC account? The JAC account was provided as a buffer zone just in case in certain months local government cannot collectively, individually pay their salaries, and then collectively they can have a pool. If it's no longer necessary, we need to have specific town hall meetings and consultation on where that should go. And so that's why that issue. For Cross River State, we have not rejected local government autonomy, and there's no plan at all to reject it.
Talking about town hall meetings and probably public hearings, how soon do you intend to do that?
Well, we just received the last 2 transmissions, currently dealing with the separation of the office of the Auditor General, Accountant General of the Federation and Accountant General of the state, and then providing for financial autonomy for the Auditor General of the Federation. So if you add that to it, we are going to continue public hearing. For our own case, what we're doing, we set up a committee to review the result of the public hearing and then look at specific issues as it relates to local government autonomy. And we are going to take that as quickly as possible and ensure that we also pass and return the transmission.
In terms of time delimitation for the amendment process, what are you working on, Honorable Damina of Bauchi State Legislature? What are we looking at? Because obviously, once the 8th Assembly is functus official, then you have to wait until the 9th Assembly. But what time limitation are you looking at? For instance, the local government autonomy, which is still on the cards, as we're just learning now.
Well, going by our position as a conference, we are targeting not to exceed the second quarter of this year, so that at least before the politicking proper, this thing must have been decided. And that is why during the last meeting, as in all those states that have not yet passed or decided on these particular issues, local government autonomy and the abrogation of the joint account, They should do the needful within the next maybe 4 weeks, so as they come up with whatever is their position, so that finally we know what is exactly done with the issues.
All right, let's come back to the chairman of the Conference of Speakers. Again, I asked the question earlier, and your colleague already answered that question with regard to why, all the state houses of assembly are now working, as it were, through a conference. But there's a perception issue that, namely, state houses of assembly have been, it is said, most of them emasculated by state governors, and therefore the claim or the allegation is that perhaps the lawmakers at the state level, with the greatest respect to you and your colleagues, do not appear to have a mind of your own. You take instructions from government houses all around the country.
Well, in the 8th Assembly, we are here to dispute that, because our action clearly demonstrated that we know we are not financially independent, and everyone knows that that is the crux of the matter. But we took the bull by the horn this time around. We set a committee, a technical committee, to the advisors, and we all adhered to that technical committee in respect of whether the governor likes it or not. So this is a clear demonstration that the 8th Assembly is a different one, because we worked as a team. If that technical committee, we agreed on that, and every speaker should go back home to implement. Cannot come back to tell us that my governor didn't say he doesn't want this. So at least a step forward, we have demonstrated that clearly we are doing it.
It has nothing to do with the governors.
Well, you can't separate this issue with the governors, because they too, we have to listen to them. Even the public hearing, even people should contribute. The governors are not separate from the people. But what I'm saying is this: on this local government election autonomy, people are seeing it as a matter of maybe whether the governors like it or not. But if we look at what is happening now, that already 8 of the states have given local government autonomy, and 24 are yet to decide. And some people are now conducting public hearings. I'm sure many things will come out of it, and by the end of the day you will see that local government may pass. So it is not a matter of whether the governor likes it or not.
All right, John Gall, let's have your take on this. I mean, do you have a mind of your own? Do you and your colleagues have? Are you independent thinking? As the claim is out there in the public.
Of course we do, and that's why I'm in the studio with my mind. So
yes, but when you are voting on the floor, what happens?
We do now. One of the things you must bear in mind is that the democracy sits on the tripod of a relationship anchored around the relationship management strategy between the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. The Constitution is not designed in such a way that each arm will work independent of the other. A relationship that works designed by the Constitution ensures that you must work along the other partner. Now, when people talk about even the autonomy of the House of Assembly, remember that under the 4th alteration dealing with the autonomy of the House of Assembly, we also guarantee the autonomy of the judiciary in that bill. So the judiciary also has its autonomy under that to ensure that the other 2 arms of government are also separate. With respect to the issues with the governors, it's always important that you understand that the House of Assembly, the powers of the House under Section 100 of the Constitution, gives us the power to make law and provide oversight responsibility. There's no House of Assembly, and we derive the power to make our house rule. There's no House of Assembly that I know, including my own House of Assembly, that needs to go to the governor to ask for the issues before the House of Assembly, the amount of bills that should be passed. In fact, in the current House of Assembly in Cross River State, out of 68 bills passed so far, all of the 68 bills are private member bills. And so it shows you the ingenuity of the independence of the members. Now, in terms of how you relate with your governor, and the Constitution has provided enormous powers for governors, not created by the House. It's not our fault. But every speaker has to find a way to work out that relationship. And in our own case, we just have to ensure that you take everybody along in that regard. That's in any way does not mean that we don't have a mind of our own. We do, and that's why we took out the amendments the way it should be. The focus of the amendment, if you look at the Constitution, the rule is for the House of Assembly and for you to consult with your constituents, which we have done extensively. I don't think the Constitution emphasizes more about consulting with the governor in that regard. In our case, we invited the executive, and the Attorney General presented a memo on behalf of the executive. The Chief Judge presented a memo on behalf of the judiciary. So that's what has been done.
All right, Honorable God.
The perspective of Honorable.
Yeah, well, he was saying. I just wanted to chip in this joke before we bring it down in our Bochi. The Cross River passed a number of bills. That would include the appropriation for 2018,
yes,
which was christened the budget of kinetic Christianization. About ₦1 trillion naira. Congratulations. Let's bring in.
Let's bring in Honorable Damina. Let's hear your perspective on this issue of independence and also governors having control over some of these decisions.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's just an issue of understanding, because this is an issue of constitution that has separated, it has created boundaries for every arm of the government. Generally speaking, the 8th Assembly are doing much better, and particularly my state, which is Bauchi, in fact, is one of the 8 states that passed the local government's autonomy and even the abrogation of the joint account. This to show the level of the independence of the assembly. So we are doing our very best, and we are improving. And God willing, as the chairman has mentioned, maybe out of the 24, many more will pass.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Damina. Let's, of course, we've paused our other guests at our Ibadan Network studios. That's Dr. Stephen Lafenwa, who is of Department of Political Science at the University of Ibadan. Dr. Lafenwa, we needed to, as it were, get the establishing remarks of 3 guests here who are speakers of various state houses of assembly, and then to also clarify some of the issues pertaining to what they have ratified and what they have rejected. Let's have your own take on what they have said, and indeed the ongoing process of amending the Constitution.
Thank you very much. That's a good opportunity, for the state assemblies to assert the powers they lost during the 3 decades of military rule in Nigeria. Because if you look at some of those items, they consider non-contentious what issues. These are items that have to do with the powers of the legislature. Talking about the immunity clause, talking about authorizational act, and so on and so forth. But one thing that is very, very important here that we need to know is that Nigerians are waiting. This process started in September when the National Assembly transmitted those bills to them. I'm not aware, it's today that I'm aware that they are passing the thing to them in piecemeal. We must, get something was clear. We've started, about 6 months ago. When are we going to end this stage, at this stage? Because the National Assembly is telling the people now that, they've received the report from the Conference of Speakers of State House of Assembly. Now, they are telling us they are going to proceed to the next stage. But the State House of Assembly, they've not decided, not concluded on contentious what issues. And people have been talking to people. Who are they talking to? Because in Oyo State here, I was privileged to watch the telecast of the proceeding of the Oyo State House Assembly when they were voting on some of these issues. And, they defer the issue of local government autonomy. And we had information that they've decided at the parliamentary caucus that they are going to vote on all the issues. But when they got to the chamber, the ball game changed, and people were so, some of the members were not happy. And those who, were, those organizations that were actually concerned, we're talking about NOGE, we're talking about NUT, and some civil society organizations. They were waiting for them to vote. They want to know the direction. but they differ. And I don't know whether they are one of those state legislatures that have passed the local government autonomy. But one thing that we should know is that we must get things right now. As representatives of the people, people are waiting for them, to assimilate, their interests, and also, pass across to the National Assembly what, are their ambition and wishes are. But from the look of things now, it's as if the National Assembly and the State House of Assembly prefer to consider some of the issues that concern them first. Because one of the issues that they have been clear now has to do with the approving independence of the state legislature. And talking about immunity clause, talking about being speakers of the House of Reps and the President of the Senate to become part of the State Council of whatever meetings. These are some of the things that people, use to conclude that, these State House of Assembly, they are powerless. They are not reflecting their wishes. People think that, if they have problem, they don't need to go to them. They don't carry any that kind of leverage, to pursue their ambition and interest. And from the look of things now, you see that the way they are dragging their feet on the issue of local government autonomy pertains to the people that these people don't want to toe the line of the people, and it's not good for our democracy, because what we are talking about is for us to strengthen our democracy, we must start from the below. We must start from the grassroots. And one thing that is very, very important is that if care is not taken, we may not have conclusion of this process before we get to election year, because they are talking about July, they are talking about June now. If we don't take appropriate steps, at appropriate time, we may have all these issues, transmitting to the next assembly, and it will not be good for us, because the 7th assembly failed to alter this constitution, and we don't want the 8th assembly to also fail. They must get clear what are those issues that pertain to the people, and how they address the issues, will tell us whether they are serving the interests of the people or they are serving their own interests.
Talking about the interests of the people, now the Speaker of the House of Representatives did say that this process has gone through the crucibles at the national and state level in terms of the process of handling these bills. In your opinion, do you think the time frame is enough to have addressed the yearnings and aspirations of the electorate?
The time frame is enough for them, because we are talking about, the National Assembly concluded in July 2017, and they transmitted these bills, including the local government autonomy bill, to the state assemblies in September 2017. If they want to hold any public consultation, if they want to seek the opinion of the people, especially those who are involved, I think the time frame is enough for them. Because one thing is this: they are Nigerians, they are representatives of the people, and these are people that are well learned, and well, they understand the terrain of Nigeria, they understand the politics, and they know the wish of the people. Majority of the people, want local government autonomy, so that there will be grassroots development, and they have been relating with them. One of the speakers there mentioned that the clause that has to do with a joint local government and state account has to do with the law of the state, the law of the state assembly. So they should try as much as possible to take steps, in that direction. And I want to say this: when you talk about local government councillors independence or independence of legislature of local government, it will be in contradiction if they don't pass local government autonomy. What is the essence of independence for the legislature at local government level, and when they don't have autonomy from the state governors and from the state house of assembly? So it is very important for us them to take it serious now that we are moving to the election, and they've already mentioned it that before the real politics will start for 2019 was election, they have to get this process to a reasonable world conclusion.
All right, Dr. Lafenwa, thank you very much. We'll come back to you, but there are reactions already coming in from our viewers by way of tweets, and you can see the Twitter handle there at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen at NTA We'll take some of those tweets now, and then we'll take a short break or we'll continue with the conversation. This one is coming from John Ifejika, and it writes, it says, the Speaker is right honorable because he is the first among his colleagues and not the number of terms you have served.
And let's take this one quickly from Sandy Michael Omakoji. He says, voting for state assemblies autonomy and voting against local government autonomy by state house assemblies is a clear indication that our lawmakers are only concerned about their well-being and not minding injustice and injuries meted out against common Nigerians.
And just to indicate that the speakers here with us in the studios have already clarified the point that, well, yes, the information, perhaps this is coming a bit late from them. The information out there was that, oh, local government autonomy had been struck down. But it turns out now that at least 8 state houses of assembly have passed the alteration bill with regard to local government autonomy, and the process is ongoing. What is dead, from what they have said, is independent candidacy, because you have at least 13 state houses of assembly voting against it. In other words, you cannot muster the required 2/3, which will be 24 states.
That's right, and that's quite informative.
That's right, that's what the speakers have said. This tweet is coming from Victor Oyoswama. It says, state legislatures are not independent. They are at the whims and caprices of the governors, and that's why they voted against laudable constitutional amendments already passed by the National Assembly. E.g. is right here, local government autonomy. No, that's still work in progress. However, it tweets further, I'm glad that they eventually passed their own financial autonomy.
And then let's take this one quickly from Habib S. Usman. He says, restructuring is the only option that will give total autonomy to local government. If the power at the center is reduced, states with control of resources through local government.
Now, Dele Jack Solomon tweets again, the refusal of the state assemblies to give their consent for full local government autonomy to give consent for full autonomy of local councils will continue to retard the development of councils, and the majority of our people who are at the grassroots will therefore continue to suffer. This needs to be addressed so as to guarantee grassroots development. Again, just to correct this.
Yes, it's good to reiterate it at every point.
That's right. The state houses of assembly, we are being told this morning, have not voted against local government autonomy. Let's take the next tweet.
Okay, let's take this one from Mike Anyoko. He says, state assemblies autonomy, I say yes. LG autonomy, I say no. State assemblies autonomy will help to check excesses of state governance, while local government autonomy is an aberration, a complete disaster. We all knew what happened between 1999 to 2001 when we had local government autonomy in place. It was a disaster. Different strokes for different folks.
Absolutely, Joy. Now, this is coming from Clifford Aguguese. Nepotism, like cancer, he tweets, has eaten deep into all fabric of our national life, the fabric of our national life, including the legislature. Now, what do you find across board? Largely compromised legislators who do not have a mind of their own. In this milieu, how do you expect the process to be speedy and the outcomes enduring and mass interest oriented?
Let's take this one from Ajaybe Lukman. He says, I believe local government autonomy will hasten development at the local level. Anything contrary to that is anti-masses.
All right, this is from Amobolahon Babs. It says politics in Nigeria is all about self, not necessarily about the people who get politicians into office. Now, beyond state houses of assembly, you find a similar scenario playing out at the National Assembly. Sometimes I ask myself, what is wrong with our politics?
And then let's take this one from Ibienemi Dominic. He says, local government autonomy should be encouraged. That will foster development closer to the people and reduce power at the federal and state level.
All right, now those are the tweets that we have. In the meantime, let's now return to our guest and then face the issue. The speaker, that's the chairman of the Conference of Speakers, who is also the speaker of the Kebbi State of Assembly. On the occasion that the speakers were retransmitting to the National Assembly the returns from the various state houses of assembly, one of the most widely reported issues had to do with the fact that state houses of assembly, at least the 34 of them that worked on the first set, complained about the absence of devolution of powers as an amendment to the Constitution. And the claim was that right there at the state level, at the grassroots level, people were asking for devolution of powers. How strong is the sentiment for devolution of powers, and what would you like to see? Let's come back to Kamba.
Yes, even that was our strong message when we were transmitting the bills to the National Assembly. We urged the National Assembly to hasten also sending that bill of devolution of powers, because we believe all these restructuring issues we are talking about, if we have a bill that will be assented to allow state governors to have more revenue and other powers to their states, it will reduce all these contentions. That's why we are agitating for devolution of powers. I believe devolution of powers is the answer to all the yearning and the aspirations of Nigerians about restructuring.
Okay, let's go to you, Honorable God. From your own state, what were the arguments about the issue of devolution of powers?
Well, for Cross River, we believe that local government autonomy is better anchored under the devolution of powers. First, because granting financial autonomy and not having the capacity to take any decision on critical issues amounts to nothing. One of the areas of the strong local government autonomy is the issue of internally generated revenue of local governments. Now, without devolution of powers, that has been taken away by state governments. Now, if you look at even within the devolution of powers, you discover that the powers of hiring and firing of local government staff is not within the local government. It's with the state government. It's not a local government service commission is appointed by the governor, and so the chairman of council cannot even appoint a staff. And if you go to primary schools, the primary local education authority chairman is appointed by the governor. The state SUBEB recruits primary school teachers, and then so they are not in control. Now, if you provide financial autonomy and you do not provide subject matter of autonomy, you're going to have a lot of issues, and that's why we felt that devolution of powers should be harmonized. I think the Senate passed it, and the Senate rejected it, and the House of Reps passed it. They can harmonize it in the joint session and forward it to us. We're expecting that the next form of transmission should have that devolution. What I believe should happen is that we should bring all the arguable issues that will deal with the subject of local government autonomy to the table. The conversation is incomplete if the whole idea is just to talk about abrogation of the joint account, which the state, like I insist, the State House of Assemblies can do it without the constitutional amendment. It's the power of the House of Assembly to amend that law that is provided for. If we need to repeal, we repeal the law. We don't need the constitutional amendment process. And then when you look at even the local government, strengthening the powers of the local government, issues like if you look at the current constitution, you will not find the definition of bylaws in the constitution. You may not even find the clear definition of who is a councillor or a chairman of council under section 318 of the constitution. This amendment is dealing with it, so we are very happy about that. But the powers of having to have...
Do you need a constitutional interpretation section to tell you what a bylaw is or who a councillor is?
No, I know, but the thing is that once you have a constitution that defines all the terms in terms of the subject matter in the constitution, that's why you have the Interpretation Act. It's important that you have that because lawyers can make a lot of meal out of it. So I think it's a recognition to the local governments. It means that we even forgot about them in the course of interpreting what it means. Now, what we are concerned more at the State House of Assembly level is that, you know, there's no member of the House of Assembly who does not have a direct relationship with the local government, and you cannot pretend that our democracy is not doing well without a local government system. We need an independent local government system with full autonomy.
Are you saying, therefore, just before we bring in the other two guests, that it appears from what you've just explained, Honorable Gore, that devolution of powers is almost inextricably linked to local government autonomy, and therefore an attempt to delink it might create some challenges going forward? Actually, so therefore, what will be the ingredients of, if you like, devolution of powers that you would like to see?
Yes, first we were looking at to decongest the exclusive list down to the concurrent list, and then also decongest the concurrent list down to the residual list, which local government takes proper responsibility of. Now, if you look at issues like mobile advertisement, collecting the road infrastructure levy, and then some other market tax and all of that, all have been taken away from the local government by the state government, because those items have been in the concurrent list. Now, if you look at even issues like solid minerals, it's with the federal government, it's not even with the state. And so even the local government that has deposit like Akankpa, Biase, Boki in Cross River State can't even earn one single revenue out of the item. Now, the point is this: once you have a devolution of power that shares a proper power structure between the three arms of government, the local government may not even need to wait for the federation allocation to function. The structure, the framework of the constitution is designed, the autonomy is designed for the federation allocation to be given to local government to function, and that will not guarantee the autonomy of financial autonomy of local government. Local governments in Cross River State can, through their internally generated revenue, there's supposed to be a shared framework between the states and local government. It's not happening because all of those items are with the state government. Now, what we are appealing to the National Assembly to do for us, the current authorization 5 and 6, excellent, but please just add the issue of devolution of powers. You have created a permanent resolution of these issues. If a vibrant local government chairman may not need to wait for the federation allocation, because what you're doing now is to say without a federation allocation they cannot function, but we need to have local government restored to them. Why would the state create road development agency for local government? Why can't the local government decide when to have their own, to build their own rural roads? We used to have local government build rural roads. So without these items, we won't do it. Like, I'm very concerned about even the issue of employment of local government staff. No local government chairman in the country can do that.
But how vibrant are these local government chairmen? Because a lot of people have complained about their job at the local level.
There's a bill in the National Assembly to also ensure that INEC conduct election into all local government, if that will solve the problem, which I don't think will solve the problem. An independent House of Assembly can also go back and look at the laws that provide for local government election and insist that that is done. The foundation of democracy is independence. And once you have an independent House of Assembly, like the point I've made about joint account, do you need the National Assembly to tell the House of Assembly to repeal or amend the joint local government account if it's not functioning? They've created the local government council allocation account in the constitution now, which is good, to repeal the joint account committee, which is also good. But there's something stronger than that. Will you design the future of the local government to be dependent on collecting allocation from federation accounts? Permanent return to National Assembly to collect handouts?
All right, thank you very much, Gold. There are a number of issues that you have raised. I would like Honorable Dabina, that's the Speaker of the Bauchi House of Assembly, to also respond to this, particularly the ingredients of devolution of powers and how these are also tied to local government autonomy. There are some issues that Honorable Gold, let's see, your counterpart from Cross River has raised. Those issues, of course, could relate to the taxing, allocation of taxing powers, and then powers to collect rates and taxes or levies. Two conceptually different issues. But let's have your take on this.
No, I concur with what he has said, because definitely that's the crack of the matter. Because people are seeing the alteration for the local governments to go independent, but of course the ingredient he has mentioned really need to be settled, because the issue of independence has to be total. That is the issue of you have to hire and fire. But if in an instance where you are given half through the right and the remaining half is being held at the left, I think it's a very big problem. And also he raised a very fundamental issue, that is the issue of the SIEC, the State Electoral Commissions. It's a tradition that wherever a local government election is being conducted, you see winner takes all. As long as states conduct local government elections, this problem may continue. So definitely the issue of elections, because it's just like going into the farm, you have to have a very good seed before you get results. So it's a very fundamental issue, the issue of elections, the issue of taxes, the issue of responsibilities, you know, so that at least these local governments, the whole aim is for it to be independent and to take care of vast majority of our people, because 90% or more of our populace are resident in our local governments. Everybody belongs to a local government. So like myself talking, I was a beneficiary of an independent local government when I was a chairman, and I knew what it was. We were executing projects. We were into so many things. So the independence should come with all these ingredients. I really supported the aspect. So the issue of the devolution of power, as rightly solicited by our chairman who were presenting our report, should be really looked into. And the one point I want to make it very clear is the state assemblies have limitation when it comes to constitutional amendment. Ours is only to say yes or no on any item sent to the Houses of Assembly. We don't have a power to plus or minus, even, a plus on the submissions. So this is very, very important. Our powers is restricted to only saying yes or no on any of the items submitted to us.
All right, that clarification is very important. Honorable Kawa Shehu Damina, Speaker Bauchi State of House of Assembly, would like to appreciate you for being on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Thank you very much.
All right, so stay Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live for the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
Chief. Good morning, sir. You are here already?
No. Now my spirit is there. My body there for house. What kind of question is that? Were you not the one that fixed this meeting for 8 a.m.? You are now coming by 10 a.m. and start asking me jab questions.
But Chief, now, I'm sorry. Don't you also go late for meetings sometimes? You know now, African time.
No more African time. And no more pancaking of face during office hours. At the end of the day, we will lose valuable time. We will not make progress. If we want to move this nation forward, we must treat business as business and respect time. Change begins with me.
Thank you, sir. I am sorry. Can we go for the meeting now, Chief?
Later.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
And we're just being joined by Ezewan Nwangu, a political scientist, and says No Campaign Nigeria. Good to have you join us on the program, Nwangu.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, what is your take on the just concluded constitutional amendment process by the state houses of assembly?
Well, I think for me is that we will need to get out of our stay on a permanent stay around denial. The denial that we have some level of independence at the state level is for me neither here nor there. The truth of the matter is that we need to take out the overbearing influence of the czars in the states, the governors, from every issue that is debated. In fact, when I was listening to the distinguished speakers, my quick sense is that where you don't have opportunity for principled dissent, where dissent is actually seen as opposition. So how really can you take a position that's independent of what the governors want? We also think, and I'm not the only one saying that, that, for instance, you don't give yourself
independence and then denying another arm, another very important arm, the same thing that you want for yourself. Why do you want independence? You want independence to be able to take these decisions. Why does local government want independence? It wants to be able to do what the Speaker of the Cross River State House of Assembly is talking about, to be able to have his hold on the things that really matter to the people and the ability to use those resource that comes from that place to develop those places. And I think that if we lose this opportunity of this alteration, we may never have it again. So we need to come out of the denial. First and foremost, we need to cut off completely the overbearing influence of the governors and what they want. There is no hiding the fact that the feeling in most of the states, especially coming actually from Cross River State, where we interacted with some of the Speaker's colleagues in those places, you feel a huge sense of powerlessness. And so I really wonder when we want to sugarcoat these issues and say, oh no, it's about cooperation. It's not about servitude also. Yes, you can cooperate, but any situation in which you cannot have principled dissent, there's a challenge. We're also seeing the challenge of lack of differentiation in terms of even our party system. Okay, you come from different political parties across the 36 states of you sit in a conference and put away your party your party differentness and then take a position on every issue together. I don't understand it. I've been thinking about that. So we need to also begin to deal in terms of differentiating. If we say a political party is APC, this one is PDP, what is the party position on local government autonomy? What is the party position on devolution? It needs to come out clear, and these members represent these political parties first and foremost, even if they come from a particular constituency. So those issues need to be taken on board in a collective sense, rather than just say, we agreed. You cannot agree. The thing about democracy is about contestation of ideas in terms of what benefits not just you as an individual, but also what benefits your constituency, the political party you represent, and the larger good of the society. So where we are now is that majority of Nigerians want local government autonomy. I listened to somebody, he said, oh, we did public hearing, the teachers came and said they don't want local government autonomy because of what happened between 1999 and all of. And I said, how can you continue to glamorize an abuse of a process? We sidestep problems in Nigeria. If there is a problem, fix it. If there was an abuse of the process when the local governments had autonomy, we have had nearly 19 years to begin to fix all of those issues through learning that we have done. And if that is not happening, it's an indictment on the quality of leadership that we continue to throw up year in, year out.
So here's a question for you. How do we fix this? Those leadership at the local government level, are they prepared for what we're asking for?
No, because it's still domiciled around what is the leadership recruitment process into the local government. You have virtually most states running states sole administrators that they call, what do they call them now? And then when they shift from that, because of the Paris Club conditions, they are organizing sham local governments, where local government elections, where the dominant political party takes 100% in a democracy, does not even concede one councillorship to opposition. And even the man who is in the House of Assembly who wants to go back is thinking that this funny position of leader of the party that has been given, that is an Obasanjo bequeathed to our democracy, that the governor is the leader of the party. And so he decides who goes. Everybody who wants to, the man who is in the legislature wants to go to House of Rep. He is depending on the governor to give him ticket, to support him, to go to. So many of them took loans that their salary cannot offset. They depend on the graciousness of the governor to pay back all of those loans. We are in trouble. So as far as we continue to live in this denial, we are not going to come out of the problem. The governors should take off their hands from the local governments, take off their hands from the State Independent Electoral Commission, and allow
financial and administrative autonomy.
All right, Ezenwa, thank you very much. Of course, you also heard before we signed you on that the local government autonomy is still work in process. It's work in progress in terms of amendment. 8 of the state House of Assembly have already passed it. We haven't reached any number saying 13 or so have declined. So, of course, we do hope they're listening to the views of you have expressed. Let's return to Ibadan. And Dr. Stephen Lafenwa. Dr. Stephen Lafenwa, again, we'd like you to speak to the question of devolution of powers and the linkage with local government autonomy. Is there something here that we have to be cautious about? Should the National Assembly speed up the ingredients that it needs to incorporate into the devolution of powers so that the state legislatures can consider those ingredients alongside what they now have with regard to local government autonomy?
You know, when the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Dogara, he was commending the state houses of assembly for talking about, you know, passing this devolution of power bill. And also, he was condemning them for rejecting local government bill, which we have already established that is still ongoing. You know, there is contradiction. When you talk about devolution of power, it is autonomy of local government that is seriously what concerned. Because when you talk about decentralization can be in form of decongesting, what they call deconcentration of powers, talking about delegation of powers. Even privatization is under, you know, decentralization. But here we are talking about autonomy of local government, which is restructuring. In part of restructuring, you know, many people are agitating, you know, that local government should be given enough power so that they can operate on their own for grassroots development because of 2 things. One, proximity. I'm talking about, you know, the smaller of population. But in the case of Nigeria, we especially our leaders, they don't understand that the political society keeps changing. And if federal institutions, you know, refuse to address some of these, you know, changes, there will be a problem. It's because of these, you know, challenges that people are agitating. Let us restructure. Let us, you know, decongest. Let us, you know, devolve powers to the local government. And you know, they don't have that kind of attitude. You know, that attitude is not, you know, it's not showing from our political elite that they are ready, you know, to give autonomy to local government, which happens to be the wish of the people. You know, I laugh at times when people talk about residual powers. I say, where is it? You know, is it in the Constitution? You know, when you talk about residual powers, the power that is, you know, those items, you know, that are not within the concurrent list and the exclusive word list, that they are, you know, they are left for local government, you know, to make laws on. But what I can take from that is that we are deceiving ourselves, because Section 318, you know, say define government in Nigeria. It said government means government at the federal level, government at the state level, and government at local government level. And that is why we need to, you see, it is very clearly written in the Constitution, the powers of the National Assembly, the power of state House of Assembly. Where is the power of the local government or council? You know, and there are so many roles that are meant for local government, but they have been taken over by the state government. So, if as the speaker from the lecturer, you know, is talking about, you know, taking power, you know, giving independence to the state House of Assembly, what is now what, you know, good for the goose is good for the gander, because they have to also think about giving independence to local government, and that, you know, in one or two ways address the issue of restructuring. Though there are so many, you know, so many people that have defined restructuring in so many ways, but in my own, you know, own view, I will view local government autonomy as part of restructuring, and also the issue of state independent electoral commission. You know, it is high time we stop deceiving ourselves.
All right, Dr. Lafenwa, thank you very much. Please, we'll come back to you to get your closing thoughts. We're getting pressed for time now. Honorable Kamba, tell us something, because there seems to have been some wooliness with regard to the returns made by the state legislatures. But one of the reports did indicate that the state houses of assembly, at least you were able to reach the threshold. Of course, you passed the not too young to wrong bill, let's call it that way. That the state houses of assembly also passed a bill for the inclusion of the civil defense into the Constitution. Is that correct?
It's correct.
All right. Now, my question, therefore, is this still on devolution of powers? And let's begin again with Honorable John Gall. We know the sentiments already been expressed by state governors. We also know the sentiments already been expressed by the federal government. Federal government is talking about community policing, and state governments are also talking about state policing. And if you, of course, want to now decongest the exclusive list and other provisions relevant to the establishment of the Nigeria police, which you say first should take off, and states are saying, look, let's have greater control over security and policing. Why, therefore, are we having the civil defense being crammed again into the Constitution?
Well, just like my colleague from Bauchi said, our voice is limited to either ayes or nays in respect of the constitutional amendments. We wish that the framework allowed us enough time to also give what my colleague also called principled dissent to some of the provisions. But first, if you look at the content of the bill on devolution of powers, the issue of the police and security is not part of the items to be devolved. The items to be devolved are very clear. Solid minerals and all of and a few other basic issues, and particularly some other tax that is under the control of state government and that ought to be under the control of the local government, which is why the devolution we are concerned about that. Now, let's take it for granted.
But sorry, please, but there are other provisions regarding the establishment of the police force in the Constitution.
Yes.
And that's where the consequential amendment should come in.
Yes, the provision dealing with to try to take away the word force in the police and replace it with just Nigerian police. It deals with the power of the IG and then control of certain powers. Now, I do not believe that the National Assembly will be ready to devolve the issue of security to states, and I do not believe that the issue of state police will happen in this dispensation, not in the 8th Assembly, maybe subsequently. Now, we expect that under normal circumstances that we should be looking at issues of civil defense becoming an item that will be in the concurrent list between states and federal government. But the same argument that is being brought up is to the fact that once you leave it in the control of the governors, it will be used for political purpose. So we've considered that for now.
But do you agree with that belief?
I don't think so. The problem is that, you know, my basic problem is that we have a tendency that once we have a problem in Nigeria, you know, we try to reduce the problem to a small aspect and not take it seriously. Look at the issue of local government, for instance. The basic problem in Nigeria today is that the merit architecture is wrong, has failed. So you have incompetent people in public office, you have incompetent people contesting election in certain public position, and the person without a capacity is a calamity in office. So once we have that situation, if somebody is not competent as a local government chairman or House of Assembly, giving him autonomy is like handing over a Kalashnikov rifle to somebody else. So you are going to find that situation. Now, when we look at the issue of security, I believe that Nigeria will get to the point where we realize that by the size of our country and the dynamics of our government, that we should entrust the power of state police, at least a certain level of control, even on armed police, to the state assemblies or to the state government to handle.
All right, Honorable Kamba, let's have your take on this with regard. Why, for instance, was the sentiment so strong amongst your colleagues to get civil defense into the Constitution at a time when state governments are calling for state police? Federal government is also talking about community policing.
Yes, we quite considered the insecurity level in the nation, and we thought having civil defense will go a long way in reducing the tension. And in other words, we also consulted widely that world over you have this civil defense, and they are being recognized by the various governments at their own level. And we thought if the civil defense will be the constitution, it will go a long way in reducing the issue of being teleguided by state governors or other powers, so that they will be given a full mandate to stand on their own and operate as an agency to combat crime. We are convinced beyond any reasonable doubt that the security agencies in Nigeria now is no near adequate to police the nation. So having another arm to come on board to the conference is a welcome development.
From our discussion so far, it is obvious that there are still thorny issues to be addressed. Looking at time, how soon do we expect that the conference will conclude on some of these decisions?
Well, we are taking our time because in the first place I told you that issue of alteration of the constitution has to be a very thorough and gradual one. And we are taking our time so that whatever we do, we are working for posterity. We don't want a situation that somebody will come back again and start castigating the 8th Assembly that you have done this item and or that item blindly. Let's talk about let me shed more light on the local government autonomy. Because while we are saying that there has to be structure on the ground to empower local government before giving it autonomy is, right now, how many local governments are paying salaries to their local government staff? In my state, 13 could not pay salaries. Because of this buffer zone of joint account, now all the monies will be put there and then shared to the local government so that they can go and settle salaries. If you say now that you give them autonomy automatically and they don't have any revenue generation bodies, so it means you are just trying to say, okay, let me just give them the autonomy for the hell of it, but not because of the development of the nation and considering the issues that may come up. So whatever we are doing for posterity. Me and them, I will not be there tomorrow, so we have to be very careful on these issues.
All right, Honorable Kamba, thank you very much. Ezenwa, let's have your take on this. Does civil defense need to be in the Constitution?
Well, I think we've gone past that kind of conversation. What we should be discussing is what are the parameters that needs to be set up to. There is no big country like Nigeria that has one central police. I think what we need to do, the conversation should stay on defining how and what, the mechanics of it is what we need to discuss. But just going back to what the chair of the conference said briefly before, because I know we don't have time. If some states were companies, they would have been liquidated by now. How many states in Nigeria are paying salaries? Even with Paris Club, ecological. So we should remove autonomy from states as well and allow federal government to be. The challenge we have is that we just go around these issues. We have a problem. Can we confront that problem? The Honorable Speaker of Cross River made the day for me. Truth is that we have what was it Soludo called powerful mediocres in government. Everywhere, whether in the state or in the local government, we need to come to terms with the fact that we need to address the level of impunity, the level of irresponsibility that we see among those who run our states, whether it is state or local government. If we remove those things, the challenge is not the process. The challenge is those who operate the platforms. Take away all of this, we will have state police that will function, will not be afraid that it will be turned into instrument to use, because we have put the mechanics that will be able to take care of that. we will not be afraid that local governments will not be able to pay teachers, because we will have been able to work out mechanism that makes it seamless for salaries to be paid to. But so the argument that, you know, the local government people cannot manage is the same argument why you have states. How many of them are not paying pensions? Many are owing up to 55 months of pension. We should have sacked them and sold them out and privatized those states. So let's face what we are dealing with. We are dealing with incompetence. We are dealing with lack of foresight in terms of, and then laws are not made because of what we feel now. We cannot be suffering from eczema, leprosy, and then we'll be using the treatment for eczema to treat leprosy. We have very big issues confronting us as a people. Leadership needs to wake up and deal with those issues collectively. And that's for me is my shot.
All right, thank you very much. Let's take more reactions now that have come in by way of tweets. Wahab Tajuddin has this tweet. Now, the only way to enjoy development is to duplicate the autonomy at the federal level. And this is by way of development to the local governments. It will strengthen our democracy. Victoria
Adaha, in her own tweet, says independent candidature should also be considered, and information has it that there was regional voting pattern by houses in same region. Local government autonomy should be passed.
Unfortunately, independent candidacy has failed in this round of amendment. Abdul Malik Mahmoud tweets, says, we are told it's a gradual process, that's the constitutional amendment. But if they vote against it before their tenure elapses, we will vote against them in the next election.
Ogundare Oluwaseyi tweets, local government autonomy brings local government corruption. It will now give EFCC more jobs.
Clifford Agogoese, why would the lawmakers reject independent candidacy if that is a reflection of the yearnings and aspirations of the people?
And from Dele Jack Solomon Mech, issues that can help to improve governance at all levels, like developing the legislature at the state levels and improving on the performance of the local government authorities, and many important issues like strengthening the judiciary should have been the priority of the constitutional amendment.
Awunuji Joshua tweets, now the most important thing to a local person is how they will be governed, not who will govern them. Whether federal, state or local government does not matter at all. So autonomy or not is for the elite class.
Pastor Adeyanju tweets, we can't give genuine democracy in Nigeria if the foundation of democracy be destroyed, which is the local government. Local government should be the most effective government because of its closeness to the people and politicians. And they're saying it must remain incapacitated.
All right, this last one from John Ifejika. It says, next time, please bring a local government chair and a governor for this kind of discussion in order to balance the conversation. Sorry, I just want, maybe it didn't, next time it will clarify for us, is he a caretaker local government chairman? A caretaker local government chairman? Or the one who won his election 99.99% on the basis of, all right, well, thanks a lot. The substance of your tweets are all noted. We would, of course, we're pressed for time now. We'd like to appreciate all our guests who've been with us at the studios from Ibadan. We'd like to thank Dr. Stephen Lafenwa, is the Department of Political Science, University of Ibadan. Thanks a lot for your contribution.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Ismaila Kamba, Chairman, Conference of Speakers of State Houses of Assembly and KB State House of Assembly Speaker. It's a pleasure having you on this program, and we thank you for sharing a wealth of experience with us. Thank you very much. We also like to thank Right Honorable Kawuwa Shehu Damina, who has left the studio, but we also appreciate his contribution. And now to Right Honorable John Gall, Speaker, Cross River State House of Assembly. We're glad that you could join us.
Thank you.
All right, Ezenwa Wango of Civil Society, always a guest on Good Morning Nigeria. Thanks a lot for your contribution this morning as well. All right, let's go over now to our sports desk, and we have stories on soccer as well as out of the Miami Masters, where Roger Federer has been shown the exit door in the second round.
After a 1-0 defeat of Poland on Friday evening, the Super Eagles of Nigeria arrived in London on Saturday ahead of Tuesday's friendly clash against Serbia and completed their first training session at the Hive Stadium on Sunday with a 7-a-side game. A second-half penalty by Victor Moses helped Ghana Troy's side defeat their host to continue their perfect 2018 World Cup preparation in front of a packaged municipal stadium walk-roll.
That now we will be the favorite of our group in the World Cup. There's a lot of work to do. They had too many chances to score, and we lost all the duel in the air.
New arrivals Junior Ajayi, Gabriel Okechukwu, and Michael Agu, caught up to replace Captain John Obi-Mikel, were actively involved in the training session. Although Etabo Genikaro has linked up with the squad after missing last week's encounter against Poland due to injury, the last Palmers midfielder remained on the sidelines. And in Nigeria Professional Football League, Lobby Stars extended their lead at the top of the standings after a 3-2 home win against Rivers United in a matchday 14 encounter on Sunday, as the reigning champions Pledge United were battered 3-0 by LC Fayumba in their way. At the Lawrence Stadium complex, league top scorer Junior Lukoza scored his 12th goal of the campaign for Kano Pillars, who went down to a 2-1 defeat against Kora United. And in tennis, Rafael Nadal will lose his world #1 spot after defeat at the Miami Open, and as announced, he will miss the clay court season, including the French Open. The 36-year-old, who suffered to a shock 3-6, 6-3, 7-6 loss to world #175 Thanasi Kokinakis in Miami, did not play on court last season either.
And that's it on Good Morning Nigeria today. Hope you enjoyed our conversations and you found it quite informative. Do join us again tomorrow for another edition. Till then, I am Joy Osiago.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Joy, and I appreciate you being with us on the program today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Good morning, sir. You are here already?
No, now my spirit day, my body day for house. What kind of question is that? Were you not the one that fixed this meeting for 8 a.m.? You are now coming by 10 a.m. and start asking me job questions.
But Chief, now, I'm sorry. Don't you also go late for meetings sometimes? You know now, African time.
No more African time. And no more pancaking of face during office hours. At the end of the day, we will lose valuable time. We will not make progress. If we want to move this nation forward, we must treat business as business and respect time. Change begins with me.
Thank you, sir. I am sorry. Can we go for the meeting now, Chief?
Better.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
This is the network service of the NTA.
An hour is earned, so says Benjamin Franklin. And he endears himself to us with so many lifestyle quotes, things that we can learn from, we can imbibe, and we can inculcate in others. I used to think they were called accidents. I've come to learn that they are called crashes. For every one of us who's watching today, either from our nuclear family or from our extended family, or even we ourselves have experienced and been impacted by what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about road crashes. Yes, they are not called accidents. They are called road crashes. They happen. Why did they happen? I've come to learn that oftentimes, if we prepare well, if we are careful, not careless, if we are organized, if we take that 1 minute to prepare, we end that 1 hour or more in organization, your vehicle is ready for movement. And remember what they taught us at the driving school, that when you get on the road, imagine that every other person is not in the right mind. Welcome, it's wellness and living. And our topic today is road crashes. My name is Thelma Obaze. Yes, it touched my mind because as I was going to work recently, I saw someone driving very, very fast. And guess what? By the time I got to the junction, there had been a ghastly crash. From what we have come to learn, road crashes have been reducing gradually. But what more can we do to ensure that our roads are more safe than they are now?
Drivers at times are caught by taking drugs and drinks, and also not maintaining their vehicles, like brake. At times, the pedestrians also at fault. They cross where they're supposed not to cross. Where the government spend a lot of money in building bridges or flyover, people supposed to cross there, people don't cross. So that's the thing.
We all contribute to these road crashes and road accidents. If there is no pedestrian bridge, people will just walk across, and in the process some people will not check very well, and that can lead to road accident. And then the drivers too, they could be careless sometimes. Everybody's in a rush to achieve what they want to achieve for the day. Then bad roads too. If the road is clear and good, the drivers will just do their line and there will be a space for the people to walk by.
If the government is so decisive to the extent that when you are being caught, actually called on phone, pay 50,000, pay 100,000, that is stopped. Thirdly, the nature of our road. The way our roads are being constructed is one of these reasons why we are having accidents.
So many drivers in Nigeria, they don't often go to driving school. They just learn from one place and they embark on a journey or on the road.
The
start from bad road, plenty of bad road, and most drivers, in an attempt to meander bad potholes, they run into accidents and all that. And that's also a major. So government need to work on the bad road, put the structures, the road in place. Again, the impatience of drivers will speed most of the times. And in an attempt, some run up to 200, and that could cause accident, because at the point when they are supposed to, slow down, they discover that they can't manage the steering. That is also another major cause.
Government should enforce that those places they build the flyovers, that people should not cross there without using it. Then also, they compile people to service their vehicles and make the parts available. Things are very hard, so that people can change their vehicle from time to time.
I'm more careful because not everyone you see crossing the road is actually mentally balanced. So you should be very careful when driving as well.
Carelessness, they say, does more harm than a want of knowledge. I picked that one once again from the stable of Benjamin Franklin. And I attribute that to the fact that sometimes when we're careless, we do more harm to ourselves. Talking about road crashes, is carelessness playing an integral part in the causes of road crashes? What are the common causes of road crashes? What have we come to learn as we have been experiencing driving on the roads of our great country, Nigeria? There's a group of people who are tasked with managing our roads and its users. We call them the Federal Road Safety Corps. We sought to speak with the Corps Marshal, who's at the helm of affairs there, to know more about road crashes.
A crash cannot be said to be a sudden occurrence if all the preventive factors are taken into consideration. It is a pure case of negligence that results in crashes and injuries, and these are preventable. Crashes has three principal factors: the driver, the road, and the environment. Driver accounts for 82% of the major factors of the crashes. So if you look at that, and the road, and the remaining is about 18%. So the road and the environment accounts for the remaining. For example, if the condition of the road is bad, I expect drivers to use what we call the common sense speed limit. If the environment is bad, for example, let me try with dry season, if the temperature is very high, the pressure of the tires, the temperature, the pressure increases. One of the key causes has to do with distractions. That's what people don't understand. Even merely chatting with your passengers is distractive in driving. Driving requires full concentration. We are talking about life, spanage of life. If you are chatting, you are unable to concentrate fully. You want to overtake. Your sense of direction does not give you the proper view of the distance and the speed of your vehicle. Your sense of judgment fails you. That's one. Then we are trying to change the CD, or some vehicles still have cassettes, or some vehicles tuning radios, or trying to fix the phone. Sometimes some people connect their phones with the smartphones now to the vehicle to be playing music. Then it becomes, by the time you raise it up, you are close. And if you're on that speed, it's not the moment you slam the brake that the vehicle stops. You suddenly apply the brake momentarily like that, the vehicle can somersault. The crashes we're talking about can make or mar the life of human beings. The pressure on the road is too much. So that is why we also advocate for intermodal transportation, effective intermodal transportation system. Do you know that the way we drive in urban areas is different from the way you drive on the highways? That is why during festive periods, more private vehicles are involved in crashes. They will tell you that I've been driving for 30 years, driving school run from the house to school to the office, from the house to the church, back, is different from driving from here to Lokoja to Kini. If a vehicle is not maintained, it becomes rickety. The glass is broken, you don't fix it, you are using super glue. The wiper is not good. One wiper is not good, you are managing the other, the rain is falling, you are using your hand like this. You know, these are the things that will shorten your lifespan. As you are doing it, you are using one hand, you are not seeing well. Why won't you crash? You know, a new vehicle, if it's not properly maintained, in 6 months, it can be off. And a vehicle properly maintained can last X number of years. There are machines. You change the tires, the headlamps are bad, you fix them. It is not safe. It is not when you want to travel that you go and service your vehicle. It's always counterproductive. If you want to travel on Saturday, by Monday, take your vehicle to a standard workshop. Let them check everything for you. And then the service will be done. Why? Why do you do that? Not a day before or same day. In the process, some mechanics, some artisans don't tighten the oil cover very well. It splashes. Or the dipstick alone is not properly replaced well. Or maybe the fuel filter is not properly tightened. If you hit the road and you know you are going on a speed of say maximum 100 kilometers like that, the oil will just splash, the vehicle will knock. But if you service it some days earlier, there's such a problem when you are doing your vehicle check. I will call it the drill in the morning. You will have seen it. But to just finish servicing the vehicle and you hit the road, there's a problem. That's why it's always advisable. Do the servicing some days before, still run it in urban, and what we call the cockpit drill for in aviation, the same thing applies to vehicles. The first thing when you enter your vehicle is first of all look at your mirrors. You have 3 mirrors: the inner mirror, the 2 side mirrors, the right one and the left one. Those are the first things you're supposed to look at first. Then you don't start the vehicle immediately. You switch it on. You allow the readings. You check all the readings. In the process, you allow the oil to circulate. Okay? Let me tell you why. It's like you wake up and you start running. You know you collapse because your blood system has not fully circulated. The same thing with vehicles. So that's why when you switch on the engine, you don't start it immediately. You switch it on, let all the indicators come up. When it comes up, you have checked the water level, the fuel level, the oil level, the pressure and everything. Then you start it. Let it run. And if you observe, if you start the engine of a car, the speed is a bit high, slightly. But after some time, it drops. When it drops means the oil has circulated. And the part of the drill is this. When it's running by itself,